There is a very particular kind of silence that comes after someone is quietly torn down in public. It isn't loud or chaotic. It's soft, controlled, almost elegant, the kind of silence that settles over a beautiful garden where people wear silk, smile too much, and sip champagne that costs more than most people's rent. It looks peaceful on the surface, but underneath, something has already shifted. I was standing near the edge of the wide Charleston estate, where the warm, salty air clung to my skin, and the sound of a string quartet floated lazily through the crowd. From a distance, everything looked perfect. Up close, it felt staged. That's when Kimberly walked toward me. She didn't look cruel. She didn't need to. She looked like power wrapped in grace, a queen mother in a soft champagne-colored gown, holding a glass of rosé like it was a symbol of authority. Behind her stood three of the lead investors tied to the $1.08 billion merger. My stepbrother Justin was proudly presenting as his masterpiece. Justin was there too. Of course, laughing, relaxed, checking his $50,000 watch like time itself worked for him. He didn't even glance at me. He never did, unless something needed fixing. "Alexandra, dear," Kimberly said smoothly, her voice slicing through the music without effort. She opened her clutch and pulled out a heavy, rusted iron wrench. Holding it delicately between two fingers like it was something dirty, something unpleasant, she extended it toward me. "The catering truck's compressor is acting up again," she said calmly. "It's warming the champagne, and that simply won't do before the toast." My eyes moved from the wrench to her face. I didn't react. I didn't blink. "I'm sure you don't mind," she added, her smile polished but empty. "After all, you're the only one here who's actually good with her hands." She paused just long enough to let the moment settle before continuing. "Justin was just telling everyone how you're the family's little grease monkey. It's charming, really. Such a practical hobby for a girl." Justin let out a sharp laugh, careless and dismissive. "She loves it," he said. "Give her a machine and she's happy. She's just the mechanic, gentlemen. Don't worry about her, she's harmless." The investors smiled politely, the kind of smiles people give when they don't want to get involved. I didn't feel embarrassed. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel anything warm at all. What I felt was cold, controlled, precise. For the past 3 hours, I had been running numbers in my head, quietly reviewing details no one else had noticed. That steady, focused process didn't stop just because they decided to humiliate me. I reached out and took the wrench. The metal was cold and solid in my hand, a simple, honest object. Unlike everything else around me. "I'll take care of it," I said calmly. My voice didn't shake. It didn't rise. It stayed level, like stone. Then I turned and walked away. I didn't go toward the catering truck. I walked in the opposite direction, toward the back of the garden, where a small vendor table sat hidden behind a decorative hedge. It wasn't meant to be seen. It was meant for the people who actually kept things running. The silence I left behind felt heavy, but I knew the silence I was about to create would be much louder. Have you ever been treated like you didn't belong in your own family? Like you were only there to serve a purpose? If you have, you already understand this moment. I reached the table and sat down. It wobbled slightly under my weight. Nothing about it was polished or perfect, but it was real. I pulled my laptop from my bag and opened it. The glow of the screen cut through everything else. In that moment, it felt like the only honest thing in the entire garden. As the system started up, I looked down at my hands. Clean now, but not soft. The calluses were still there, quiet reminders of every hour I had worked while they judged me. Kimberly and Justin loved calling me the grease monkey because it made things easier for them. It placed me in a box. It made me smaller in their eyes. What they never understood was how wrong they were. While Justin struggled through business school and nearly failed out, and while Robert was sinking under financial pressure during the 2018 mortgage crisis, I was the one holding everything together. I wasn't visible. But I was essential. I worked double shifts for years as a field technician, quietly paying off Robert's back taxes so they wouldn't lose this very estate they were now showing off. I paid for Justin's private tutors when his future was hanging by a thread. I invested time, money, and energy into a family that never once stopped to say thank you. Not once. What I gave them wasn't support. It was a loan they never planned to repay. I didn't reach for emotion. I reached for my security token, because being ignored comes with an advantage most people don't think about. When people believe you don't matter, they stop hiding things from you. They talk freely. They leave documents open. They forget you're even there. They treat you like furniture, and furniture listens. I learned that early. I grew up in a house filled with secrets, lies, and quiet manipulation. I learned to read what wasn't being said. I learned to find what was hidden. That's why I became a forensic accountant, not in spite of my family, because of them. On the screen, I found the file I had been waiting for, Project Golden Oak, the $1.08 billion acquisition. Justin thought he had built perfectly. He believed he had hidden everything. The shell companies, the false trails, the financial gaps. But he forgot one thing. I knew how he thought. I knew where he made mistakes. I had been cleaning up after him for years. I didn't feel anger when I spotted the first inconsistency. Emotion clouds judgment, and this wasn't personal anymore. This was a ledger, a record, a balance sheet of everything they had done. And for the first time in 32 years, I was the one holding the red pen. I pressed the button to initiate a forensic hold. The screen shifted, glowing with quiet authority. The merger didn't just slow down, it stopped completely. I had been working for about 20 minutes when a shadow fell across my screen. Didn't need to look up. The scent of expensive jasmine told me exactly who it was. Still playing with your little tools, Alexandra? Kimberly said softly, her voice smooth but sharp underneath. I checked the catering truck. The compressor is still running. You ignored a direct request. I kept my eyes on the screen. The compressor isn't the problem, I said calmly. The foundation is. She let out a dry laugh. Justin stepped closer, leaning casually against the hedge. You always liked drama, he said. I told the board you were a success story. Makes us look generous, supporting family. He shook his head slightly. But sitting here like this, you're making me look bad. I closed the laptop slowly and finally looked at him. I don't need to make you look bad, Justin, I said evenly. You've already handled that yourself. Kimberly's expression hardened. Be careful, she said quietly. Your father only keeps you in the will out of obligation. Don't push your luck. She leaned closer, her voice dropping. One word from me and that disappears. You'll be exactly what you look like right now, someone who doesn't belong here. Her breath smelled like expensive wine. You think numbers give you power? She added. They don't. Power comes from belief. And no one believes the girl with grease under her nails. Justin checked his watch and smirked. The investors are waiting, he said. Let's leave her to her work. They turned and walked away, their laughter trailing behind them like smoke. They thought they had control of the story. They thought they were rewriting who I was. They thought they were mocking a mechanic. They didn't realize they were provoking the person who had already set everything in motion. 3 days later, everything changed. The warm Charleston air was gone, replaced by the cold, controlled atmosphere of a boardroom on the 44th floor in Charlotte. The mechanic wasn't there anymore. I stood in front of floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out over the city skyline. No denim. No tools, just a charcoal gray suit perfectly fitted. My hair pulled back tight, sharp, clean, unforgiving. Behind me, on the long mahogany table, sat a single object, the same rusted wrench Kimberly had handed me. Now it held down a stack of federal injunction papers. The doors opened. Justin walked in first, confident as ever, until he saw me. He stopped. Kimberly and Robert froze behind him. Alex, what is this? Justin demanded, dropping his briefcase onto the table. I just got a call. The merger's been flagged. Why are you sitting in my consultant's chair? I didn't stand. I didn't rush. It's not your consultant's chair, I said calmly. It's the lead auditor's chair. I glanced at the time. And you're already late for your first compliance hearing. Kimberly laughed sharply. This has to be a joke, she said. Robert, tell her to stop this. I cleared security, I replied evenly. I issued the badges. I gestured toward the 2 men standing quietly near the door, senior agents. Government Forensic Division. The color drained from Robert's face. Alex, he said weakly, you're a mechanic. I own the firm. I met his eyes without hesitation. Dad, it was a front for private forensic auditing. I spent 10 years becoming the person people hire when they want to find the money you've hidden. This is the fragility of false power. People like Kimberly and Justin mistake proximity to wealth for the actual skill to manage it. They think that because they wear the clothes and sit in the offices, they possess the competence. But power without substance is just an illusion. When a real authority enters the room, the illusion doesn't just fade, it shatters. Justin, let's start with the $2 million consulting fee move to a Cayman account last Tuesday. I leaned back, watching as the realization hit them. They weren't looking at a grease monkey anymore. They were looking at the person who held the power to delete their entire future with a single keystroke. The atmosphere in the boardroom didn't just turn cold, it became vacuum-sealed. Justin was still blustering, trying to use his height to intimidate me. "This is a reach, Alex," Justin sneered. "A $2 million transfer is a rounding error. It was a retainer. It's perfectly legal." "I agree," I said, my voice as flat as a heart monitor's flatline. "Retainers are legal. Forgery, however, is not." I tapped a command on my tablet. 2 documents appeared side by side on the projector. On the left was the signature page for the loan that started Justin's company. On the right was a digitized copy of my mother's last will. "Robert, look at the screen." I said the seed money for Justin's company didn't come from a silent investor. "Dad, it came from Mom's life insurance policy. The policy that was supposed to be held in trust for my education." "Kimberly, you told me the policy had lapsed. You told me Mom left us with nothing but debt." I zoomed in on the signatures. The analysts have already flagged this. The signature on the loan document, the one supposedly signed by my mother 3 months before she died, is a perfect digital trace of her signature from years prior. Someone forged a dying woman's name to steal her daughter's inheritance. Kimberly's face didn't just go pale. It turned a sickly translucent gray. "That is an outrageous accusation," she stammered. "It's not an accusation, Kimberly. It's a forensic fact. You didn't just belittle me for 10 years. You robbed me to fund a lifestyle you didn't earn. You took the only thing my mother had left to give me and used it to buy Justin's first office lease." Robert looked at Kimberly, then back at the screen. He looked truly small. "This $1,080,000,000 merger is built on the foundation of a felony." I said, "This isn't just a family squabble anymore. It's bank fraud." I looked at Justin. He looked like a ghost in a $1,000 suit. "This wasn't revenge." I whispered loud enough for only them to hear. "It was just accounting, and after 7 years of interest, the bill is finally due." The silence that followed was absolute. Kimberly lunged across the table, her manicured nails digging into the mahogany. "Alexandra, please," she sobbed. "We're a family. We can fix this. If this merger dies, we lose the estate. You can't want your own brother to go to prison over a technicality." "It's not a technicality, Kimberly. It's the law," I said. I didn't move an inch. "And as for family, you forfeited that word the second you forged my mother's name. You handed me a wrench to fix your catering truck while you were living off my stolen inheritance." Justin suddenly stood up, his face contorted. "You think you're so high and mighty? You're a spiteful, bitter woman, Alex. You always have been." I looked at him, and for the first time, I smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. "I'm not destroying the deal, Justin. You destroyed it the moment you built it on fraud. I'm just the one documenting the wreckage. And don't mistake my clarity for spite. Spite is emotional. I am being purely professional." I turned back to the agents. "Secure the server logs. I want a full freeze on all assets. Effective immediately. This merger is dead." "Alex, wait," Robert called out, his voice cracking. "What happens to us?" I stood up and smoothed my jacket. I picked up the rusted wrench from the table and held it out to Kimberly. She stared at it, trembling. "You told me at the wedding that I was the only one good for fixing things," I said. "But some things are too broken to fix. Not even the grease monkey can save you this time." I dropped the wrench. It hit the polished mahogany with a heavy final thud. "I'm not the mechanic anymore, Kimberly. I'm the one who disassembles the engine of your lies." I walked out of the boardroom without looking back. My heels clicked against the marble floor in a perfect, steady rhythm. The fallout was total. Within 48 hours, the merger was terminated. Robert issued a statement about restructuring, which was code for selling the estate to cover the legal fees. I wasn't there to see it. I was in my new apartment in the city, a space filled with sunlight and the kind of quiet you can only hear when you stop waiting for an attack. No more floral bedspreads from a childhood I was forced to outgrow. I sat at my kitchen island drinking coffee. I opened my personal laptop and saw an email from Robert. He didn't ask how I was. He asked if I could talk to the auditors to help Justin avoid jail. He called it a family favor. I didn't feel a surge of anger. I didn't feel the need to reply with a list of grievances. I simply clicked the checkbox next to his name, hit delete, and then emptied the trash folder. That was the final audit. The balance sheet of my life was finally perfectly in the black. I want to speak directly to you, the one listening, who knows exactly what it feels like to be Alexandra. Maybe you're the one who is left out of the family group chat or the one whose success is treated like an accident by the people who should be your biggest fans. We often seek apologies from the people who hurt us, but an apology only carries weight when the person offering it realizes they have lost the power to hurt us anymore. You don't need their sorry to be whole. You need your own competence. If they won't give you a seat at their table, it's because you were meant to own the building. Don't waste your breath trying to convince them of your value. Spend your energy building a life so undeniably excellent that their opinion becomes a footnote in a story they no longer have the right to read. The most powerful form of closure isn't a loud argument. It's the silence of a morning where you no longer care what they think. Sometimes the greatest gift people can give you is their rejection. It forces you to stop trying to fit into their small boxes and start building a fortress of your own. Sometimes the best revenge isn't a loud explosion. It's the quiet, undeniable truth of who you've become. If this story resonated with you, share your journey in the comments. Subscribe for more stories of quiet power and professional sovereignty. Remember, you aren't just the mechanic of your life.